The lights in the great hall of the Galactic Forum burned soft and gold. Thousands of seats circled the center stage, where the galaxy's leaders gathered to speak. Voices echoed in the air, low, nervous, and restless. But one seat stood out above all the rest. It was larger, higher, and marked with a glowing blue symbol of Earth. That seat was empty. Mira Cade sat below it, alone in the small envoy seats. She wore the dark gray uniform of the Human Alliance. The golden badge on her chest marked her as an official speaker. But today, she had nothing to say. Not yet. The last official Human Council had left the Forum 6 months ago. No reason had been given. No message had been sent since. One by one, the other humans followed. Their ships left silently. Their stations shut down. Their voices faded. At first, the other species waited, thinking the humans would return. But now fear was growing. The Forum was breaking apart. Old arguments had returned. New threats had begun to rise. All eyes now turned to the Creel Dominion, one of the largest and strongest powers in the galaxy. And at the center of that power stood High Chancellor Vrax. He rose from his seat across the hall, tall and sharp in his dark green robe. His reptilian face showed no emotion, but his golden eyes watched everyone closely. Vrax raised his hand. The hall grew quiet. "Friends," Vrax said, his voice smooth and cold. "We all feel the weight of the silence left by the humans." He paused, looking toward the empty human seat. His long fingers curled as if reaching for it, but he quickly let his hand fall back to his side. "The Forum cannot wait any longer," he continued. "For centuries, humans promised to protect us. Now they are gone. We must fill the space they left behind. The Creel Dominion is ready to lead." A soft wave of whispers filled the room. Some envoys nodded. Others looked away. Mira stayed still, gripping the edge of her seat. She knew what Vrax really wanted: control. Full control. She stood. The whispers stopped. Mira took a deep breath. Her voice was steady, but her heart was racing. "With respect, Chancellor Vrax," she said, "we do not know why humans left. You cannot claim their place while the truth remains hidden." Vrax slowly turned to her. His smile was thin and cold. "Envoy Cade," he said softly, "you are the last voice of a silent people. Why should this Forum trust one voice when the rest have already turned their backs?" Mira felt the weight of every eye on her. She had no answer. She wanted to believe humans had a reason, a good reason, but she had no proof. Only questions. Still, she cannot back down. "Not yet. I will find the truth," she said, her voice firm. Vrax's golden eyes narrowed. He gave a small nod, then sat down without another word. The meeting ended soon after. One by one, the envoys left the hall. Many avoided Myra's gaze. Some gave her small, sad looks, as if she had already lost. Mira stayed in her seat long after the hall was empty. She knew one thing for sure. The galaxy was slipping into fear, and she was running out of time. Mira Cade stood in her quarters, staring out the wide glass window into the stars. The lights of distant ships blinked in the blackness. Somewhere out there, the truth waited. She just had to find it. The Forum had been silent since the meeting ended. Officially, all talks had been paused for reflection. Unofficially, fear had taken hold. The smaller species whispered in their halls. The larger powers circled like hungry beasts. And High Chancellor Vrax, as always, stayed calm, watching, waiting. Mira turned from the window and pulled up the secure network on her console. Messages from old contacts blinked on her screen. Friend from other species, old allies, people she trusted. One message caught her eye. It was short, unclear, but the words made her stop and read it twice. They were seen. Outer dead zone, near the drift belt. Silent ships. Human markings. Her breath caught in her throat. The drift belt was a chain of abandoned mining stations on the edge of known space. It had been empty for years, or so everyone believed. Mira leaned back in her chair. If humans had gone there, they didn't want to be found. But why? And why leave the Forum without a word? She stood, grabbed her data pad, and left her quarters. She had to speak to someone who might know more. The lower levels of the Forum were different from the bright, open halls above. They were dark, full of small rooms and narrow paths. This was where quiet deals were made. This was where information lived in shadows. Mira walked carefully, her boots soft on the metal floor. She stopped a small door with no markings. She knocked once, then twice more after a short pause. The door slid open. Inside stood Nira Voss, a Cerny information broker. Her skin shimmered like dark glass. Her four thin eyes blinked slowly as she smiled. "Mira, Kate," Nira said softly. "I wondered when you would come." Mira stepped inside. The door closed behind her. "You sent the message?" Mira asked. Nira nodded. "I did. Tell me everything." Nira walked to a small table and sat. She motioned for Mira to sit across from her. 3 cycles ago, Nira began, a cargo runner came through the drift belt. He was lost. His ship's core was damaged. He thought the area was empty, but he saw lights. Ships with Earth markings. He didn't dare get close. But he told me what he saw. "How many ships?" Mira asked quickly. "At least 5. Big ones, hidden near the old mining stations." Mira felt her heart race. This was more than a rumor. Did he hear anything? Any signals? Nira shook her head. No, they were silent. No lights, no beacons. Just hiding in the dark. Mira leaned back, trying to think. Why would humans hide in dead space? Were they building something? Preparing for war? Or running from something? Why tell me this now? Mira asked. Nira leaned in closer. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Because Vrax already knows. Myra's blood turned cold. How? She asked. Vrax's spies follow every ship. He knows where you're going next, Nira said. And he won't let you return if you leave. Mira stood. She didn't have time to wait. She had to see it for herself. She had to find those ships. Thank you, Nira, she said. Nira gave a small nod. Be careful, Miracade. The dark holds more than secrets. Later that night, Mira stood on the small landing deck. Her personal ship, the Sparrow, sat ready. It was fast and quiet, perfect for what she needed. She looked back once at the Forum. The great lights of the station glowed like a small sun in the dark. She knew she might not return, but she had to go. Mira climbed aboard, sealed the doors, and set her course for the drift belt. As the engines hummed to life, she whispered to herself, I will find the truth. The Sparrow slipped into the stars, leaving the Forum behind. The Sparrow drifted through space like a shadow. Its engines ran on low power to avoid detection. Mira sat in the pilot's seat, eyes locked on the dark screen in front of her. She had crossed 3 sectors already. The drift belt was close. Outside, the stars grew thin. The space around her felt empty, like a graveyard. Large chunks of rock floated here, broken mining stations, dead ships, and metal debris. Long ago, this place had been full of life. Miners had come here to dig rare energy crystals. But the crystals ran dry, and the miners left. Nothing had lived here since. Or so they believed. Mira checked the sensors again. No signals. No chips. Just cold silence. She slowed the ship and turned off the main lights. The Sparrow became part of the darkness. She reached for the small device on her belt, a signal reader. It could pick up hidden energy trails if any ships had passed through recently. She tapped the screen. The lines danced for a moment. Then one line broke through the noise. A faint trail. Fresh. Myra's heart pounded in her chest. Someone had been here. She followed the trail slowly, her ship floating through the thick clouds of rock and dust. Every bump of debris against the hull made her flinch. The drift belt felt alive, watching her waiting. After an hour of careful flying, she saw it. A massive human ship, dark and silent, hiding behind a broken mining tower. The ship's surface was scratched and scarred, but the markings were clear. UHS Resolute. Mira gasped. The Resolute was a command ship, one of Earth's best. It should have been in open space, leading fleets, not hiding here like a ghost. She moved the Sparrow closer. No lights. No signals. The ship looked dead. Mira locked her ship to a docking port on the Resolute. The hatch hissed as it opened. She grabbed her small plasma pistol, just in case, and stepped onto the dark metal floor of the larger ship. The air was cold. Too cold. Emergency lights blinked in weak red pulses. It was like walking through a tomb. She moved carefully, boots soft on the floor. The halls were empty. No crew. No sound. She reached the bridge. The glass windows showed the empty stars outside. The control panels were dark, but something on the captain's chair caught her eye. A data core, still glowing faintly. Mira rushed to it. She plugged her data pad into the core and waited as the files loaded. She scanned the reports quickly, her hands shaking. What she read made her breath stop. Report, Project Pulse. The Creel Dominion has developed a mind control weapon called the Pulse, targeting the Forum leadership. Risk of total control of all major species. The Human Council has voted to retreat. We cannot win openly. We will hide, gather evidence, and wait for the right moment to reveal the truth. Mira stared at the words, her mind spinning. So that was it. The humans didn't abandon the Forum. They left to stop Vrax's weapon. They were hiding to protect the galaxy, not to betray it. She dug deeper into the files, looking for a full record to take back. She needed proof, but the files ended suddenly. Corrupted. Only pieces remained. She cursed under her breath and pulled her data pad free. Even pieces were better than nothing. She had to warn the Forum before Vrax made his move. Mira turned to leave, but stopped. A soft sound echoed through the ship. Heavy boots. More than one pair. She wasn't alone. Her heart raced as she backed toward the docking hatch. Voices spoke in low tones. She couldn't make out the words, but the tone was clear, searching. Vrax had found her. Mira slipped into the hatch and sealed it behind her. She jumped into the Sparrow and fired the engines. The ship shook as she broke free from the Resolute. Red warning lights flashed. Enemy ships had locked onto her. Not today, Mira whispered. She pushed the engines to full power. The Sparrow shot through the debris field, dodging rocks and old wreckage. Blaster fire lit up the dark around her. One shot clipped her wing, shaking the ship, but she held the course. The enemy ships chased her, but the Sparrow was faster. She weaved through tight spaces, using the field as cover. Slowly, the enemy ships fell back, too large to follow her through the narrow paths. When she cleared the belt, she set course back to the Forum. She had the truth, but Vrax knew she had it, and he would do anything to stop her. The Sparrow moved fast, but not fast enough. Mira could feel it. Something was wrong. The closer she got to the Galactic Forum, the heavier her chest felt. It was like she was flying straight into a trap. She checked the radar again. No enemy ships behind her. No alarms. Everything looked clear, but her gut told her otherwise. When the Sparrow reached the Forum's outer ring, Mira sent her clearance code. The docking control tower answered right away. Envoy Mira Cade, welcome back, the voice said. Too fast. Too polite. Something was definitely wrong. She landed in Bay 17, deep in the lower levels of the station. Normally, there would be crew waiting to check the ship or greet her. This time, the bay was empty. The docking lights blinked green. The bay doors sealed shut behind her. Mira grabbed her data pad and the small data core she had pulled from the Resolute. She knew she had to move fast. Vrax wouldn't wait long. She stepped out of the Sparrow. Her boots echoed in the empty bay. She looked around. No movement. No sounds. She headed toward the exit door. The moment she reached it, the door slid open. 5 Creel soldiers stood in her path, blasters raised. Mira froze. Envoy Cade, one of them said, his voice sharp. You are under arrest by order of High Chancellor Vrax. Mira took a step back, heart pounding. On what charge? She asked, already knowing the answer. Spreading false information. Plotting against the Forum. Mira clenched her jaw. Vrax had prepared for this. He knew she had found the truth, and now he wanted to silence her before she could speak. Slowly, she raised her hands. Fine. Take me, she said. She had no choice. Not yet. They took her through the back halls, away from the main Forum paths. No one would see her here. No one would ask questions. Vrax was smart. He was making sure she disappeared quietly. They brought her to a small holding room. Cold walls. No windows. Just a table and 2 chairs. Mira sat down, hands still shaking. The soldiers left her alone. The door locked behind them. Mira leaned back and closed her eyes, trying to think. She still had the data core hidden inside her jacket. They hadn't searched her yet. She had one chance. Hours passed, or maybe it was just minutes. Time felt heavy in the small room. Finally, The door slid open again. Vrax entered. He moved slowly, hands behind his back, his golden eyes watching her closely. He sat down across from her, folding his hands on the table. He didn't speak right away. He just smiled. Mira stared back in silence. Vrax leaned forward. "I warned you," he said softly. Mira didn't flinch. "You're afraid?" she replied. Vrax's smile widened slightly. "Afraid? No. I've already won. You have nothing. You're nothing. The forum will never hear you." Mira leaned in too, matching his cold stare. "We'll see." Vrax stood. "This is your last night," Mira caved. "Tomorrow, I will show the forum who you really are, a liar, a traitor, a threat to peace. No one will believe you." He turned and walked out, the door sealing shut behind him. Mira waited until she was sure the cameras had stopped watching. She had studied the security systems long ago. There was always a short blind spot between shifts. Just a few seconds, but enough. She pulled the small data core from her jacket and linked it to her datapad. Her hands moved fast, setting up a signal hack. It was risky. It could fail, but it was the only way to reach the forum. The datapad connected to the outer network. She found the forum's public broadcast line, the one that showed every meeting to the galaxy. She loaded the files from the Resolute. It wasn't perfect. Some data was damaged, but it was real. The truth was there. Mira hit send. The screen in the room flickered. Outside, across the forum, every screen lit up. The voice of the Human Council echoed across the station. The files played in full, revealing Vrax's plan, the weapon called the Pulse, and the real reason why humans had left. Gasps and shouts rang through the halls. Mira leaned back in her chair and let out a long breath. She had done it, but she knew Vrax would not give up so easily. The forum shook with noise. Every screen in every hall repeated the same message. Vrax's secret weapon, the Pulse, had been revealed to all. The voice of the Human Council filled the air. The words were sharp, clear, impossible to deny. Mira watched the feed from the small screen on the wall. She had done what she came to do, but the danger wasn't over. Far from it. The door to her cell burst open. 2 Creel soldiers stormed in, weapons ready. They grabbed her by the arms and pulled her to her feet. Mira didn't fight. There was no point. They marched her through the dark halls, back toward the Great Hall. As they walked, she heard shouting in the distance. Angry voices. Fearful voices. The forum was awake now. The lies had fallen apart. The soldiers pushed her through the side door of the Great Hall. The seats were full. Every species was present. The air felt thick with tension. High Chancellor Vrax stood in the center. He didn't look pleased. He looked dangerous. The soldiers shoved Mira forward. Vrax turned to face the crowd. "Members of the forum," he said loudly, his voice ringing through the hall. "You have seen lies broadcast across your systems. A trick by one desperate human." Mira stood tall, forcing herself to meet Vrax's cold stare. "She broke into our networks. She spread fear. She has no proof, no voice, and no right to speak here." The Creel soldiers raised their weapons. It looked like Vrax planned to end it here, in front of everyone. But then something changed. The lights flickered. A deep hum filled the hall. A signal, stronger, clearer than before, cut through the air. The large screen above the stage lit up once again. But this time, it wasn't a recorded message. It was a live feed. The face of Admiral Grant, commander of the Human Defense Fleet, filled the screen. His voice was calm, but heavy with power. "This is Admiral Grant of the Human Alliance," he said. "We confirm the message sent earlier is true. The Creel Dominion has built a weapon to control the minds of every leader in this forum. We left to find a way to stop it, and now we have returned." The screen shifted to show massive ships, human warships, arriving outside the forum. The fleet stretched far and wide, filling space with their dark, heavy shapes. Gasps filled the hall. The fear in the air turned to panic. Vrax raised his hand to speak, but his voice cracked. His calm mask began to break. "This is a human trick," he shouted. "They come to take control." Mira took a step forward. Her voice was steady. "No," she said loudly. "We come to stop you." The room exploded with noise. Envoys shouted at Vrax. Some demanded answers. Others called for his arrest. Creel soldiers closed ranks around him, but the forum guards began to move in, weapons raised. Vrax's golden eyes darted back and forth. He took a step back, then another. His smile was gone. Mira knew what he was thinking. He had lost control. Vrax turned sharply and tried to run for the side exit. His soldiers followed, but the forum guards blocked their path. The Creel's soldiers raised their weapons, but they were outnumbered. One by one, they dropped their arms. Vrax stood frozen. Mira stepped forward, standing in the center of the hall. "You have nowhere to run, Vrax," she said. The guards surrounded him. He didn't fight. He knew it was over. Vrax was taken away in silence. Mira looked around the Great Hall. For the first time in months, the empty seat of humanity no longer felt abandoned. The human fleet had returned. The forum had the truth. And Vrax's grip had been broken. But the work was not finished. The forum still needed to heal. Trust needed to be rebuilt. Mira knew this was just the beginning. The air around the forum shifted. For months, the galaxy had waited in fear. Now, the silence was broken. The human fleet had returned, not in secret, not in hiding, but standing tall before every eye in the galaxy. Mira stood on the main balcony of the forum, looking out through the giant glass wall. The blackness of space stretched beyond, filled with the long shapes of human warships. Dozens of them floated in place, silent but strong. Their engines glowed softly. Their weapons stayed cold. They had come to defend, not attack. Behind her, the forum was still a storm of voices. Leaders from every species argued and shouted. Some demanded to punish the Creel. Some wanted to close the forum forever. Others called for peace, afraid of another war. Mira knew the danger was not over. Fear still hung in the air like a thick fog. One wrong move could break the forum apart for good. The heavy doors opened behind her. Mira turned to see Admiral Grant enter the balcony. He wore the dark blue uniform of Earth's High Command. His face was lined with age and duty. His eyes, sharp as ever, settled on her with a small nod. "You've done well, Envoy Cade," he said. Mira nodded, but stayed silent for a moment. Her mind was heavy with everything that had happened. "Why didn't you tell the forum sooner?" she finally asked. Grant stepped closer, folding his hands behind his back as he looked out at the fleet. "We tried," he said quietly, "but Vrax's spies were everywhere. Every signal we sent was blocked or twisted into lies. If we had come back too soon, he would have used the pulse on us all." Mira tightened her jaw. She understood, but the silence had cost them all so much. "And now?" she asked. Grant turned to face her fully. "Now we tell the truth. Every word. We return to our place, not to rule, but to rebuild trust." Mira nodded. It was the right path. The only path. The forum gathered again that night. This time, the Great Hall felt different. The fear was still there, but it had changed. It had turned into something more powerful, hope. Admiral Grant stood at the center with Mira by his side. He raised his voice so all could hear. "We, the Human Alliance, return to the forum," Grant said. "Not as rulers, not as saviors, but as equals. We stand ready to share what we have learned. We stand ready to defend peace together." The room stayed quiet for a long moment. Then one by one, the envoys stood. Some nodded. Some placed their hands on their chests in respect. The old signs of unity began to return. Mira felt the weight in her chest begin to lift. But there was one more thing she had to do. Later, after the hall had cleared, Mira stood before the human seat. The high, empty chair that had watched the forum in silence for so long. She looked up at it. Slowly, she turned and walked toward the smaller envoy's seat, her seat. She sat down, placing her hands on the smooth table. She wasn't the highest voice in the room, but she was still a voice. And sometimes, one voice was all it took to start again. The days that followed were not easy. The galaxy had seen the truth, but trust was not something that returned overnight. Vrax had planted fear deep into the hearts of many. Some envoys still doubted the Human Alliance. Some still whispered that the humans had hidden too long, that they had let the forum fall apart. Mira Cade heard every whisper. She walked the halls of the forum each day, listening, watching, speaking when needed. She knew the fear was not gone, but she also saw something else, hope trying to grow again. The Creel Dominion, without Vrax, had pulled back to their home systems. Their new leaders claimed they wanted peace, but few trusted them. The forum kept its guard up, watching the Creel closely. No one wanted another trick. No one wanted another pulse. Vrax himself was locked in a high-security cell deep within the forum's core. He had not spoken a word since his arrest. Mira had passed by his cell once, only for a moment. He had not even looked at her. His cold eyes had stared at the wall, empty and defeated. Mira felt no victory in seeing him there. She knew the real victory would be keeping the forum together. The human fleet stayed in orbit, but their weapons remained cold. Their presence was a shield, not a threat. Mira had spoken with Admiral Grant many times since the night of the broadcast. He had made it clear the humans would not take back control. They would not sit in the high chair again. Their place was here, among the envoys, as equals. Mira had agreed. She had chosen to remain as Earth's envoy, not because she wanted power, but because she believed in the forum. She believed that every species, every voice mattered. One morning, Mira stood again on the balcony, looking out at the stars. Ships from every species moved in and out of the docking bays. Trade routes reopened. Meetings began again. The forum was slowly breathing back to life. She heard soft footsteps behind her. It was Nira Voss, the Cerny information broker who had first warned her. Nira's dark glass-like skin shimmered in the morning light. "I see you're still standing," Nira said softly. Mira smiled. "Barely." Nira walked to the edge of the balcony, looking out with her 4 blinking eyes. "The galaxy owes you more than they know," Nira whispered. Mira shook her head. "Not me. The truth saved us all." Nira nodded slowly, her small smile returning. "Still," Nira added, "you'll need to watch your back. Peace never lasts forever." Mira knew those words were true. The galaxy was full of unknown threats. Fear could always return, but she had learned something powerful. Fear could be beaten, not with weapons, not with power, but with truth and courage. And she was ready. As Nira walked away, Mira placed her hands on the balcony rail. The stars stretched far beyond what the eye could see. Somewhere out there, new dangers waited. New stories were waiting to begin. But for now, the forum stood. The voices had returned, and the galaxy had hope again.